Hi, I hope you're well. I'm continuing with the workshop drawer cabinet build, and in this one I'm fitting the middle drawers with side-mounted ball race drawer slides or drawer runners. Where the top drawer was a simple inset box in 12mm birch ply, these drawers are in 18mm Birch-faced Poplar, an alternative to birch ply that I've been looking at on this build. Poplar plywood is a lightweight but surprisingly soft material. I last used it on my ultralight portable bench, so it's not ideal for this drawer box application, but I'm going to use it anyway as it's what I have. And I've used the drawer fascias. These are in globulus maple plywood. I've used the fascias to double check again that the cabinet doesn't get narrower towards the back. Then I've cut a couple of strips off the poplar board to the correct height, that's the same height as the drawer fronts, and then to length, allowing for the thickness of the drawer fascia by using an offcut of the maple plywood clamped to the carcass. Now these full extension or double extension drawer runners are nominally 500mm long, but they're actually measuring up a little bit over that, and my carcass before the lipping was applied is actually a little under 500mm. My 10-minute workshop plus members will know why that is, and I'll talk about that in a future video. But for now I can just accept that these drawer slides will poke out of the back of the cabinet by a few millimeters. There's no back to the carcass, so that's not an issue, and while I could rebate them into the drawer fronts, it's not really that big of a deal for this application, so I'm just going to take the easy option and let them be. Side-mounted runners are some of the easiest to fit. They simply screw to the drawer box and the carcass and the fixing holes are slotted, so you have a little bit of up-down and in-out adjustment, but no side-to-side adjustment, no wiggle room, so you do need to be quite precise. If you mount them directly to the drawer sides, you get a half-inch gap, 12.7mm, which in a bigger drawer you might be able to live with, but in a relatively small drawer like this, and especially one with thick sides, it's a little bit too gappy for me. We do have an 18mm thick drawer box, so you could rebate the drawer slides into the box by 10 or 11mm. That would give you a perfect 2mm gap or so either side, but that would only leave 8mm or so of rebate to screw the drawer runners into. And anyway, the base of the drawer will be in 6mm birch ply set into a 6mm deep groove around the inside of the box, so you'd end up with just a couple of mil of drawer box thickness remaining, which is nowhere near enough. I've run a couple of tests and I think a 6mm rebate will work okay. It reduces the gap and still leaves enough meat in the drawer for the runner fixing and for the grooved base. And like before, I'll be cutting out the bulk of the rebate with the track saw and then finishing it off at the router bench. I've used the drawer slides to mark out on the drawer sides where to cut, first in the face, and then the edge. This is close to a full cut depth on the track saw, so I'm using a saw with a 28 tooth universal blade to make life a little bit easier. Over at the router bench I'm actually using an ovolo bit in the router as it's the largest flat bit I own, but even this isn't quite big enough for this 50mm rebate, so I'll be making the rebate in 2 passes, moving the workpiece out with a false fence for that second pass. With the rebates done in the drawer sides, I need to get the drawer backs cut to size. Remember, there's not much side-to-side wiggle room with these runners, so I'm taping them into the carcass with a couple of lengths of 6mm scrap in there to help keep the drawer sides parallel. They're just taped in there for now as well. And then the backs measured, cut, and offered up to make sure it fits nicely. I've set up a grooving bit in the router bench and a sacrificial false fence applied to help prevent tear out. I'll have stops clamped to the fence so I can groove the drawer box front and back to take the base, then move the fence forwards by a couple of millimeters to make a shallower groove in the drawer sides opposite the drawer runner rebate. Again, a sacrificial fence helps keep the faces clean. I'm using the Triton doweler to put these drawers together, lining it up against pencil marks to drill out the dowels in the ends of the back. the rear inside faces of the sides, the front edges of the sides, and then the inside faces of the fascias. A little bit of testing is needed with those as they don't sit flush with the sides of the drawer box. And with the doweling done, I can cut the 6mm birch ply for the drawer base. And just as a precaution, I'm knocking off the front corners with a hand plane and easing the edges with some sandpaper. Okay, so first proper dry fit with the base in and the front in with dowels. I'm going to talk about the dowels in a minute. Don't fret. I've eased the edges of the base slightly. Pretty snug fit. Okay, I think we can live with that. Okay, time for some glue and a quick break. Once again, the glue up is exactly like the dry fit, but with added glue and clamps. Always clamps. While this happens, let me just say that there'll be an even longer version of this video up at 10-Minute Workshop Plus with a bit more detail on the nuances involved with these type of drawer runners and drawer box construction, as well as some early thoughts on these birch ply alternatives. 10-Minute Workshop Plus is my independent member platform, and Plus members have access to ad-free versions of the public-facing videos, as well as exclusive content, a weekly vlog, behind the scenes and over the shoulder kind of videos that wouldn't normally see the light of day, and a lively member forum too, where you can get your questions answered or maybe provide some for other folks. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, we'd love to have you on board and taking part. Head on over to 10minuteworkshop.com for more details, or sign up directly at 10minuteworkshop.plus. And I'd like to say thanks so much to everybody who's done just that. With the drawers out of clamps, I'm going to use a 23 gauge or headless pinner to put a 15mm pin through the dowels, holding the fascias in place, just in case the glue fails in the next decade or two. And with the dowels pinned from the inside, I can swap to a 25mm long pin and fix into the dowels through the sides of the fascia, placing the pin into the darker end grain ply to make it less noticeable. And then a bit of light sanding will help that along too. Alright, so that's not looking too bad. After a quick sand down, and you can't really see, but we've got the drawer slides in here. The drawer fits in really nicely. There's no real play in there. I've got this snugged up nice to the front. Very slight sit back on it. What I'm going to do very quickly is I'm just going to pull the drawer slides out and just put a piece of tape on the back of that. Push them back in, and then I can just put a pencil mark With the slides marked, I can get them fitted to the drawers. I'm using a 1mm packer to set back the end of the smaller drawer mounted runner. This makes sure that it closes fully. And I'm using 1.5mm or 1/16 of an inch packers against the rebate to raise the drawer slightly to help centre it in the opening. I'm fixing it on with small 12mm or 1/2 inch screws using the slotted positions in the runner just in case it needs adjustment later. So with the slides connected, that should slide right in, up off the deck by a couple of mil, 1.5mm, all fitting nice and flush. And then we can pop around here. We know, because of our line on the runners, that we're in the right place. So we can pull the drawer out, and we can get it fixing in here. I'm using the same 12mm screws in the carcass. They're just to keep the runners in position and any weight will be borne by the plywood battens. And the fixing method is identical for the second drawer. The drawers are easy to remove. The little plastic catches on the drawer mounted runner releases them. And if this cabinet had a back to it, I'd have taken them off before now. With the runners sorted, I can apply a coat of Keith Brown's excellent oil wax finish to the fascias, giving it a bit of time to soak in before buffing it up and getting those drawers fitted back into the cabinet. So there you go, that's your side-mounted ball race double extension drawer runners on plywood drawer boxes, all put together with dowels and glue and a couple of tiny pins in there too for good measure. There's lots of ways that you can make these kind of things, and in this project I'm trying to cover as many useful ones as I can, and the final pair of drawers will be done using undermount soft close bloom style runners. That's probably a few videos away, so be sure you're subscribed to join me for that one, but I'll call this one done for now. Thanks so much for taking a look, and I'll see you again very soon. All right, take care.